He's not coming?
I don't see him.
All right. All right. You're being recorded. You're being recorded. You're being recorded. You're for the YouTube video. Everyone, I'm gonna fix the lights. Yes, I have it. Don't worry about it. You're being recorded. You're being recorded. Being
Could everyone please take your seats so we can get started?
Perfect.
Is that better? Better? Okay. Are you, Bob, are you going to use the podium? I would like, if you could start from there, that would be great.
It's freezing in here. The first item is the roll. Yeah.
Here comes the baby suit.
Too bright for you still? I can't change the angle.
Okay, everyone,
I'm sorry.
can everyone please take your seats and we'd like to get started? Okay, I want to welcome everybody to our 2024 annual meeting. It looks like we have a little better crowd than we did for meet and greet, which is good, but we're not back to the old days yet when we used to fill up this auditorium. I really wish we can get back there. The pandemic did a lot of damage to social interactions, and we've seen it in our various meetings. But it's good to see you're here. We have some very important things to discuss. First thing I want to announce, the first item on the agenda is the roll call, and that's to make sure that we have a quorum, and we do. We made the quorum this afternoon, so that means 51% of the residents / owners of the greens have voted, so we're legal. Okay, we can proceed with the meeting. The first item on the agenda is approve the minutes of last year's annual meeting. Steve Swirsky took them, but I would just like to say that I would make a motion to approve them so we can move on. Would somebody second that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, everybody in favor?
I was all ready to read them.
Okay, Steve was very eager to approve that motion. Okay, so it's approved. I have some opening comments to make. and then we'll get to the rest of the agenda. I'd like to begin my report by celebrating the look and the life of the Greens. I wrote this in my spring message at our magazine, Life of the Greens. In that message, I said, we're like an oasis in the middle of busy Melville, Huntington, with ponds and fountains, waterfalls, heavily treed roadways and cul-de-sacs, and landscaped berms. Combine this with a friendly, sociable, and supportive population, you can understand why this resonates among, among area seniors looking to move here. Our property values have consistently risen over the years as our turnover rate for our senior gated community of 1,144 units was less than 5% last year for the year 2023. Condo apartments originally sold for $175,000. Today, some are being sold for over $700,000. To what can we attribute the obvious success of the Greens? There are hundreds of condominium communities across the US. Each one is specifically organized and defined by their offering documents, including general descriptions, organizations, bylaws, house rules, etc. The Greens offering documents define our community, and the definition seems to be working very well. We have an open, interactive, and socially involved senior community without fences isolating us from one another. We provide maintenance services and common area enhancements, relieving homeowners from many of the tasks they undertook when they owned their own residence. Many of these tasks are still homeowners' responsibilities in other condo communities, but not here. Our community is actually 5 non-contiguous condo communities. Condos 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Our various types of units are spread and mixed throughout the community. Managing this mixture of units is a challenge successfully resolved by our offering document. I am sure you all read the offering documents for the condo you bought, or at least your lawyer read it, and finalized before you finalized your purchase here. Let me talk a little bit more about some details. Our offering document, by the way, the offering document is the same for each of the 5 condos. So pick any one of the offering documents, your condo or somebody else's, it's the same. Offering document part 1, paragraph Roman numeral 5, Homeowners Association, describes all the services to be provided by the HOA. It goes on to state that although such services are usually performed by the Board of Managers of the individual condominium regimes, they will be provided by the HOA Association to ensure uniformity of services and to avoid a duplication of services with the resultant economic savings. The condominium regimes will provide insurance for their homes. Offering document part 2, Schedule J, confirmation condominium bylaws, Article 3, Section 11. I'll give you all these references if you're interested in checking what I'm telling you. This section reinforces part 1 that I just read to you, representing that the Board of Managers of each condominium shall be deemed to have irrevocably appointed the HOA Board of Directors of the Greens HOA to perform all listed maintenance, repairs, replacements, additions, alterations, etc., as the managing agent. The condo Board of Managers shall, however, be responsible for maintaining adequate fire and liability coverage for the homes in their condominium community. The last section I want to read before I put you to sleep is offering document part 1, paragraph Roman numeral 5, Homeowners Association, paragraph C, states that the affairs of the HOA Association shall be governed by a board of directors consisting of 7 association members or owners. In addition, the president of the board of managers of each condominium regime shall automatically become a non-voting member of the board of directors of the association. It has been suggested by one of our candidates running for a voting position on our HOA board that he would seek to amend our 5 offering documents, including our 6 bylaws, to extend HOA board voting rights to the 5 condo presidents, thus reducing the authority of the current 7 voting board members as described in our offering document. Whereas the 7 voting members of the board now represent the look and the life of the Greens, of the 1,144 owners, the condo presidents represent as few as 100 owners. There is a reason the offering documents did not extend the voting rights to the condo presidents, but did include them in board meetings and discussions so that specific issues affecting a particular condo can be addressed by the voting board. And as I stated earlier, the Greens, as currently defined by the offering documents, is working. Redefining the Greens community for questionable reasons can have unanticipated consequences. For example, I just read the offering document passages to you that confirm that each of the condo board of managers unequivocally transferred all managing rights to the HOA, with the exception of fire and liability insurance. Our community insurance strategy has always been to enter the insurance market as 5 individual condo communities, not as 5 individual communities, but as one community of 1,144 units. By advising insurers, it is all or nothing. They must provide insurance coverage for each of our 5 condo communities. This strategy strengthens our bargaining power and presents us as one large community. 2 years ago, Condo 4 left the other 4 condos and the HOA and went out on their own, hiring their own insurance agent and seeking their own insurance coverage. If its board of managers had not transferred the authority to maintain and enhance the community to the HOA and decided to hire their own security company or landscapers or unit repairing contractors, electricians, etc., can you see how the resulting conflict within the Greens community could have a major impact on the look and the life of the Greens? We would have been seen as 5 individual condo communities at war with each other. Now, that issue with insurance has pretty much been resolved and things have been turned back to normal. I'm just pointing out the danger of having individual condos representing as little as 100 units have the same power as the people you vote for on the board who represent all 1,144 units. My spring message in our Life at the Greens magazine mentioned how in this presidential election year, our national politics have gotten ugly. The divisiveness and negative rhetoric that is gripping our nation is on the rise. I urge all to keep the negative rhetoric outside our gates and fences so we continue to appreciate our oasis. Unfortunately, some of the negative and anger has seeped into our community during this election. Please resist it. Thank you. Okay, next item on our agenda, we have our accountant, our outside independent accountant, Mark Getz, who is going to report on our annual financial position.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Most of you know me. My name is Mark Getz. I'm a CPA, and I've been your auditor for some time now. I do your certified audit and report to you, the community, annually on the financial position of the HOA. I'm just going to piggyback a little on what Bob said about the property values. There's another reason why property values go up and stay up, and that's that's your financial statements. The healthier you keep these financial statements, the better and more attractive your properties are going to be when you try and sell them. Since I perform probably 100 audits of HOAs and condos, some of my friends and family and colleagues actually show me financial statements of condos that they're interested in buying, and you would be surprised how many I squash because the financial statements are so weak, and I pretty much tell them what's coming, you know. The wonderful thing about the Greens is you have a board that's focused on maintaining healthy financial statements, and they've done a fantastic job. Just one item that stands out to me is the interest for the year was $119,000 last year, up from under 20,000 last year. Your board has done a wonderful job moving money around and earning interest that contributed $120,000 to your community, which is outstanding. So I'm just going to briefly go over your statement, your balance sheet, and income statement. I'm going to be on page 4 if you want to follow along. If you look, your operating fund, you ended with $160,000 in operating cash. You had almost 3.4 million in your reserve fund. You have 1.9 million invested in the new building and the off-site maintenance facility. Right now, it's called construction in progress because they're not completed yet, but that construction in progress next year will actually be the building and the off-site maintenance facility. So your total operating current assets are $732,636. Your reserve fund, including the building and the off-site facility, is 5.3 million. You have a building maintenance reserve of 273,000 and a capital improvement reserve fund of 446,000. So your total assets, 6,758,000. Compare that to your liabilities, 726,000. Accounts payable was a measly 63,000. You had a due to operating fund of 439,000, which is just a liability from your reserve fund to your operating fund. Common charges received in advance, which is $192,000, which is just all of you homeowners who paid your February common charges in January. So that becomes, an asset the following day. So again, your total liability is $726,000 compared to your total assets of $6.7 million. That's healthy, and that's exactly where you want to be. Your revenues for the year ended January 31st, 24 were $6,399,292, most of which was your common charges. Common charges were $6,282,000, rental fees of $67,000. You had advertising of $37,172, and some other miscellaneous income. So the total revenue is just under 6.4 million. Where did that go? I'm on page 5 now. If anybody's following. Operating expenses. Okay, I'll get into what expenses on each in a minute. Operating expenses were $888,000 compared to $863,000 the previous year. Repairs and maintenance, $2.9 million. Compared to $2.6 million in 2023. Major repairs and replacements, $402,000, and general and administrative of $803,704, compared to $868, I'm sorry, in 2023. So after all that, you have an excess of revenues over expenses of about 1.4 million, and luckily that's the approximate amount that you put into your reserve fund during January 31st, 24. So we pretty much take our surplus and fund all of our various reserve funds. In the back, of the financial statement, you will see I'm on page 15. Okay, I'll go through this quick so I don't put anybody to sleep. Operating expenses include your security, your salaries, payroll taxes and benefits, your water, and your electric. And that adds up to that $888,000 that was on page 5. Your repairs and maintenance includes all of the following: landscaping and grounds, snow removal, sprinklers and irrigation, rubbish, roofs, driveways, stucco and painting, sidewalks and curbs, roads, materials and supplies, exterminating, gate plumbing, vehicles, and power washing. That's the 2.9 million that you see on page 5 under repairs and maintenance. Major repairs and replacements, these are usually one-offs. These are usually not done every year, but these were the projects that were done this past year. We had tree and shrubs, we had some drainage, gates, we had the bicycle sheds, some additional landscaping. We did some driveways and stoops, some gutters and leaders, and some road work for $402,044. And lastly, our general and administrative. This includes your management fees, Einsiedler, your insurance policy, your contracted management fees for Einsiedler, your office expenses, newsletter, legal, rent, accounting, payroll processing, and telephone, totaling $803,704. Again, that's the general and administrative number on page 5. So all in all, you have a surplus. You had enough money to fund your reserves, your assets for the association are growing and your liabilities are not, which is exactly what you want to see. And I don't see any reason why a potential buyer or a bank or anybody would see anything negative about these financial statements. Am I allowed to take questions?
Sure.
If there are any questions, I will take them now. Yes, sir.
This report is dated March 1st. Is there any reason other than at 6 o'clock tonight that we can get this information prior? So there's a lot to digest, a lot. It's over most people's head. And even some of us that haven't had to use this, it's a lot. Why can't we get this earlier?
Okay, he wants to know why, the homeowners, couldn't get the financial statements prior to this meeting.
We could probably set it up.
We could, go ahead.
Even though the report is dated March 1st, there was a lot of background work that went on. The board did not review it until the second week in May. It wasn't finalized and reviewed by the Budget and Finance Committee in the second week in May. So that it still could be sent out. So we'll look at it for next year.
Yeah.
Okay. Second question, you allude to certain documents regarding repairs and replacements that were not provided to you, albeit not impacting the P&L balance sheet. Are we entitled to these documents when they're produced about repairs and replacements?
So the AICPA, it's recommends that a reserve study is done, but this does not require it. So, but your board, Bill Mullins, does a very extensive reserve study that's just not part of this statement. So I have to put that in. The only way to get that out would be to publish a reserve study, and that would be a board decision.
I want to know why was so much money spent on snow removal when they only came around once this year?
She wants to know why snow removal is so high when it didn't snow. So what's happening now is these companies are making HOAs and condo associations sign contracts. And you have to pay a minimum amount, whether it snows or not. But they'll will address that.
I have that addressed in my presentation, but I'll address it now since you asked the question. We spent $700,000 on the contract for snow. So here is the situation. Last year, we went out and we said, let's figure out if by inch works. You know, over 20 inches, you pay by inch. We did different scenarios, and it didn't come out advantageous. We went out to bid at the end of last year before we signed the snow contract, and we got 4 bids back. The cheapest was $770, as high as $895. The other main reason that is advantageous for us is we have an exclusive with the 3 landscape vendors. So you think of it as an insurance policy. They have their equipment on site. They have their manpower here. As soon as the snow is ready to fall, they're out sanding, and they stay with us until all of the snow is gone. Okay? There's an advantage to doing that. If we try to negotiate it down, then these 3 snow contractors would go out and get other business to make up the shortfall. So we have an exclusive. What we don't want to have happen is what we happened 6, 7 years ago. You get one snow vendor in, maybe for cheaper money, although the bids did not come in at that low price. And what happens is they come in, they're quick, they go do some other communities, come back 2 days later, do another quick, come back 2 days later. And then, if you recall, if you've been here a long time, how come my area wasn't done? We don't have that anymore. So we're paying a premium for on-site snow, and we have people here, and it's still the cheapest even when we go out to bid.
I want to add to that explanation. One of our major responsibilities is to keep the community safe. When snow starts accumulating on our roads and our cul-de-sacs, our snow contractor immediately starts plowing the roads so that our roads are always open for emergency vehicles. God forbid somebody has a heart attack and we now have 3 or 4 inches of snow on our roads and we can't get an ambulance in for whatever reason. Our contractor is already there plowing. He doesn't do your driveways yet. We're not doing the driveways yet, but we're keeping all the major roads open for emergency vehicles. There's nothing more important to us, the health and the survival of our community and our senior citizens.
I have a question. Hello?
Any other questions?
Yeah, me.
There you go.
Hi. There's $1.8 million in the budget representing the unfinished building that was supposed to be done by December 1st, and $400,000 for the off-site facility, which we were supposed to get for a bargain. My question is, are these on budget, or are we having cost overruns? Because your report doesn't reflect what the amount that was budgeted for, just the amount that is in progress. Can you address that?
My report is only actual numbers. I'm gonna have to defer that to Bill.
Okay, Bob.
Okay? Any other questions?
But you don't get the numbers in terms of what the projection was, what the budget was.
Budget is mine. I do an audit of the actual numbers. I don't do an actual first budget. That's what the budget and finance committee does. So I'll let Bill explain that.
Right.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Voting is closed.
Okay. You're gonna go last. Yes. Okay, I'm gonna give you the president's report. You may have read the Newsday article on April 12th about the shortage of housing on Long Island and the fact that the developers are leaving Long Island because they can't deal with the delays, the bureaucracy, and the resulting increase in cost. We got hit with some of that as well. We went out for bid expecting we would have the subdivision for the office back in early 2022. We had bids, we went out for bids, and the low bidder at that time was $860,000. The second bidder was $1,054,000. Of course, we reached an agreement with the low bidder, and we were ready to sign the contract, but we still didn't have the subdivision, we didn't have the construction permit. So we waited, and our lawyer helped us, and we approached the Suffolk County Department of Health and the Town Planning Board to try to accelerate the subdivision. Well, we got that subdivision 3.5 years later. That's how long it took us to get the subdivision upon which our new office is being constructed right now. Now, that 3.5 year delay caused an increase in pricing. We had the pandemic. Wood costs soared. A lot of costs soared. And our contractor came back. We hadn't signed the contract. We already signed it 3.5 years earlier. Our contractor came back and he said, look, I will hold my labor costs, but I'm getting killed on material. And we agreed, we negotiated, and his price went up to $1,060,000, which you'll see in Bill Mullen's report. That's where we are now. That's what we base our projections on, starting with that. It's interesting to note that his price now is where the second bidder was 3.5 years earlier. I can only imagine where the second bidder would have been today. As far as the building is concerned, the building is complete. It's painted. The furniture is inside. We've moved files into the file room. The telephones are installed and working. The internet is connected. We have our TVs set up in the big conference room. What's holding us up now are 3 installations that we need to complete before we can complete the building to the point where we get a certificate of occupancy. The first holdup was the waste line. Every one of our units has a waste line coming from your unit to connect to the county's sewer. So we have a waste line in the building to connect our 2 toilets and 4 sinks. We were held up at least 4 months by the Department of Public Works getting their approval. Well, we finally got their approval. The waste line is installed, okay, with Department of Public Works approval. We're waiting for the documents, but it's been approved. Now we're going to the second issue, and that's the water line. The building has to be connected to the water main. The water main is a few feet away from the building. It's not a big problem, but we need to get approval from the Suffolk County Department of Health. Well, the news I can report, after waiting some time, first of all, the South Hunting Water District accepted our design and sent their comments and our design to Suffolk County Department of Health. After a long delay, Suffolk County Department of Health has approved the plan this past Thursday. They mailed the approval on Friday. We would have gone and picked it up, but that's not their procedure. They mailed it to the South Huntington Water District on Friday. I spoke to the district. As soon as that approval arrives, they told us we can go ahead and start installing the water line. And that's terrific. That can be done within a week. Once the water line is installed, National Grid said they will come and install the gas line. They will not install the gas line until all other underground installations are complete. They're concerned about somebody hitting the gas line. They will take perhaps, well, first of all, they'll do it very quickly. However, they need 2 weeks' notice. So as soon as we have the water line in, we will get in touch with National Grid, and within 2 weeks, we'll have the gas connected to the building. Now, why is that so important? Well, we have to commission our heating and ventilating system. And we can't get a CO until we have an operating heating and ventilating system. So I don't want to be overly optimistic, but if everyone does what they said they will do in our government and our contractors and our utilities, we should be in the building by the end of this month. The next item I want to talk about is the maintenance facility. This is a deal we negotiated with Suffolk County Department of Health some time ago. We reached an agreement with them. We all shook hands, and we delivered our side of the bargain 6 years ago. 5.5 years later, they delivered the deed to the 1 acre of land at the sewer treatment plant that we had negotiated. We bought that 1 acre of land for under $8,800. One of the things we had to get over was that the legislators in Suffolk County, not the ones that represent us, but others, protested that an acre of land in Huntington goes for $1 million. How could you sell it to the Greens for less than $8,800? Susan Berlin, our legislator at the time, argued the point, worked the room, and it was voted on and it was approved. So the maintenance facility is now fully functional. We removed all of the equipment, the materials, the metal containers and everything. We moved them all from the North Gate area, for the parking lot area. It's all hidden over near the former STP property, where you can't see. It's right across the street from the main entrance to the Greens. There's one more piece of movement that we have to make, and I apologize to Condo 5 that it hasn't happened yet. The snow blades, the large snow blades that we have stored on site for the winter storms, is currently on that road down to the, behind the Condo 5 property. Also, the road, what do you call it? The ice melt is there as well. That all has to be removed from there and brought over to the new maintenance facility. That will happen, Condo 5, that will happen this Friday. The next item I want to talk about is the roof project. And you'll hear more about the budgets and how we're going to fund it. But the roof project, replacing our 21-year-old roofs throughout the whole community, is scheduled to begin in the next construction season, which is next March. We've put together a timeline schedule to support starting that construction next March. Now, typically, when you get your bids, bid validity lasts 90 days. So if we want to start working in mid-March, we need to have a roofing contract by the end of December. In order to get a roofing contract by the end of December, we have to back off from there, and we need to put together an RFP, requirements for the contractors to bid. For that, we need an expert to help us. And we've identified 3 engineering companies who will put together, for our review, an RFP, request for proposal, which will include the design that's required, staging requirements, schedule requirements, and other requirements that we want the roofing contractors to bid on. We're now in the process of working with 3 potential engineering companies that will also provide management capability. So in other words, we will have, the engineer will put together the technical specs for the roofing contractors to bid on. And once he will help us evaluate the bids, we'll negotiate with the contractors and finalize the contract by late December. Once the contractor mobilizes and starts to work, the engineering contractor will provide a manager who will be on site 2 or 3 times a week to make sure that the roofing contractor is performing in accordance with the contract. We will also be watching. And his engineers will inspect the work that was done to ensure that it meets the specification before we approve invoices. We're in the process of picking that engineering company who will assist us in this regard. The next major project we have is our painting project. And our stucco has never been repainted or what have you. The original colors of the greens is still there on stucco, and of course the siding is all the same. We will be initiating our work to identify a consultant who will help us on the colors and what we need to do to repair and update and repaint and reseal the stucco. We're gonna wait until we have a roofing contractor, so we see what the plan is. And our plan is to interface the new painting contractor that we're going to sign to follow the roofing contractor. As the roofing contractor finishes a phase, the painting contractor will come in and work there. So we're now looking at doing painting and roofing pretty much the same time, one following the other. The third major plan is to resurface our roads. Now, the roads are functioning. They don't look great, they're squigglies, people complain about the look, but they function. You're not gonna bust a tire on our roads. Drive outside the greens, you have a good chance of busting a tire. The problem with doing the roads now is that the heavy equipment we're gonna bring in for the roofing contractor will damage the roads. So don't resurface the roads now, wait until the heavy lifting and the heavy equipment is off property, and then we're gonna bring in the roads contract. That will happen as we finish the roofing contract. That's my presentation. There's big questions about how we're gonna fund all this work. And that's going to be the subject of our treasurer's report, Bill Mullins. And unless anybody has any questions, Bill is gonna take it. I'm sorry, I wanna change that. We wanna leave you with the information on the funding of these projects. So I wanna wait until the end of the meeting, the last subject, to discuss that. I'd rather have two fast reports before that. The first one will be from our A&A committee.
In first limit.
Okay, and the second one will be from our traffic and safety committee. So, Harry, by the way, somebody had a question?
Oh, thank you. Bob, thank you very much for the great report.
It's coming with another one.
I heard him, but I have to confess,
Bob,
I
thank
have
you
no
very
hearing.
much for the great
Loud.
report. I do have a proposition for you. I'm not going to mention specifics, but there's somewhere in these contracts, we should have some kind of a clause that if the contractor does something not correctly or he damages properly, there should be an immediate and not a 5 months delay in repairing that.
I agree, and one thing about this board and prior boards, it's taken many, many years. And I want to let you know, all our major contracts are renegotiated or rebid at least once every 3 years to make sure we still have the best contractors and the best pricing. We now have excellent contractors who work for us and respond very, very quickly. I'm going to give an example. One of my friends here is going to laugh because I always use this example. But we had an unfortunate accident at the Greens where one homeowner accidentally stepped on the gas rather than the brakes of her car, and she drove through the garage door of her neighbor, destroyed her neighbor's car, and pushed the destroyed car through the back wall of the garage. PSE&G came immediately because the electric meter was hung on the back, outside on the back of the garage wall. So they came immediately and they shut down the power, they disconnected the power. That all occurred Monday, late afternoon. Our contractors, East Coast Remodeling, who's our regular steady contractor, and our electrical contractor, Bob Smith, also our regular, were on the spot that evening. Everything was repaired in 2 days. By Wednesday evening, everything was fixed with the exception of the garage door, because that has to go on order. Instead, they put up our maintenance guys put up a plywood, a big piece of plywood to close off the garage. PSE&G came Thursday morning and reestablish the power. So when you talk about if something happens and don't wait 4 months to fix, this is a good example of how we moved. And by the way, I have to thank Frank Nevis, I have to thank Larry Rabb and Jason, our maintenance guys. They were all there and they all worked this out.
Bob, I was talking about an outside contractor who did our driveways, who happened to hit, I'll get personal, my garage door. It took 5 months to replace that garage door, thanks to Frank and other people who worked on it. But it shouldn't take that long.
No, I agree. I'm not familiar with the details, but it should not take that long. And I don't know who was this a contractor, a steady contractor that we have, or this was a?
It was your driveway contractor, the guy who replaced the driveways.
Well, I don't know which drive. We had prototype drive. This is a townhouse?
Yeah.
Well, we have two times.
villa.
Excuse me, Villa?
Yep.
Well, I don't know the particulars, but I certainly agree with you. It should not take 4 months.
Right. One more question here. So I'm new to the neighborhood, and far be it for me to criticize anything that you're doing, because it sounds like you have a lot of things under control. But what is apparent to me, and it can always change, of course, is that there hasn't been a major snowstorm on Long Island in close to 10 years. But what there has been is a change in the weather. And what we do have is the storms that have come through in the past 3 and 4 months have left tremendous amounts of flooding in various areas and damage to trees and bushes throughout the community. It seems that this should be, at the very least, a topic of discussion on the board, as that what you're going to do about the changing climate and how it's going to impact our landscape, because it's going to come home to haunt us.
Okay.
You're welcome. Ready?
All right.
Just point of order, can we follow our agenda first, because the Q and A should be at the end?
Yes.
That would be okay?
Mm-hmm,
Yeah, questions at the end,
definitely.
okay?
Good.
Oh, we want to get moving. One last question.
Optimum.
Right here.
Could you bring us up to speed on what's happening with Optimum? They dug up the whole place and we don't seem to see any progress.
I don't know what their progress, all I know is when they destroy something, they're obligated to fix it. If they hit a sprinkler line or something, or an underground water line, they have to fix it. But I don't know what their progress is and when they're gonna, they don't report to
Frank
me.
spoke to them a couple of months ago, and they're rescheduling us. They're working on other communities right now.
Okay. Harry Koenig wants to report on A&A, and I'm sure you'll have some questions. Harry?
I would like to begin and thank the members of the A&A committee for their diligence and dedication in keeping the greens green. I'd like to also thank Hal Rosen, my co-chair. This past year, the A&A committee, with the authorization of the HOA, removed approximately 150 dead or diseased trees and shrubs. We also removed some of the overgrown trees that were planted too close to homes, causing clogging of the sewer lines and irrigation lines. Not every tree will be replaced, as many were originally planted in the wrong area. We have heard good things from homeowners that it opened up their space and their area. We have instituted the changing of the street light lenses, which should be completed this summer, adding more light to the roads. The A&A committee has put aside funds for a berm beautification program. This past fall, we did 3 berms as a sample and more to come. This program will be taken over the next 3 years. This year, there will be no mulch, as we do it every other year because of the cost of mulch. A&A, along with the landscapers, did the initial planting in the fall and just authorized summer perennials to be installed at the HOA building. We also have planted over 30 green giant abrevieties along the parking lot area by the new HOA building to block out the highway and the New York State property behind it. There are plans to beautify the north gate in the fall, and that happens to be Kaplan's property, and we've gotten his approval. That's about it. I thank you all. Any questions? If you have any questions regarding your area, please wait till the end of the meeting. I'll be more than happy to address it. And I want to say that anybody who is interested in joining the A&A committee, to please send in your information to the HOA office. They will then forward it to the committee.
Steve Ellis will present a report from Traffic and Safety. Steve?
Hello, my name is Steve Ellis. I co-chair the Traffic and Safety Committee with Steve Josephsberg. We have a meeting coming up on June 6th, so my report is really short because we have a lot of items that we are going over. If you drive out the north gate by our building, you notice that we have a new stop sign there that's lighted. If that works out, and that's going to be for our new office, obviously there's not a lot of traffic there now, but there will be. That will be used very frequently. And if that works out with that lighted sign, we hope that people will stop at it when they see the lighted sign. We will get another sign going the opposite way on the other side. As I said, that's going to be a very, very busy section, and we hope that people abide by that stop sign. In general, and all of you should know, people have been here for 20 years, we want people to stop at our stop signs. We do have enforcement. The enforcement will be throughout the year, it always is. And we will issue fines if you pass the stop signs. I can't tell you, I'm out all day and going through the community, and I can't tell you how many people don't stop at the stop signs. And when I ask some of these people, I actually have followed people to different destinations when they pass the stop sign, the answer is, I'm in a hurry. I don't know what that means. They have to go to the clubhouse. One lady was going to the clubhouse, and she was late for a game, and she came around the traffic circle, cut me off, and had to get to her game. I had another gentleman who had to get some medication at the drugstore, so he was in a hurry. That was his answer. Stop sign means stop. Someone's going to get hurt. We've had accidents in the past, going back a couple of years ago, some major intersections here. And believe me, it's not worth it. Stop at the stop signs, please. The enforcement, again, will happen throughout the year, so please be aware of it. And if you have guests coming into the community, let them know. You're responsible for your guests. If they go through a stop sign, you get the fine. So please let your friends, your guests know that they should abide by our signage in the community. Very important. With the nice weather, we have lots of people walking on our roads. I walk every morning. I see big groups of people walking. We would like you to walk against traffic. That's the rule that we have here. And I see groups that don't abide by that. I do tell them it's for your safety. Also, I have large groups when they're walking around the community, they walk across the road. I mean, it's obvious. You can't walk across the road. The car has to go around you. They beep the horn and the people yell at the car. It just, I mean, they have the right of way and they're going to win out. So please, don't stretch across the road walking, with side by side, and do what you can to make it safe for yourself. Bicycles, other vehicles go with traffic. not against traffic. So if you're out there bicycling, please ride with traffic and obey all the signage. You're a vehicle, so that's important to do. Please abide by that. Also, on Altesa, we have our speed tables, which in another month are going to be getting reflectors placed inside of the speed tables so that you can see those particular tables at night. It's difficult. Some people have a problem seeing the sign. And we put one experimental reflector in the speed table, and it works great. Each speed table will get a multiple of, up to 6 reflectors so that you'll be able to see them, and hopefully, you'll slow down. Speed now community is another problem with vehicles. The speed bumps and speed tables have helped with that problem, but there are always people that are in a hurry racing through our community. 20 miles an hour, please. 25 miles an hour, I mean, already it's getting a little dangerous, and at 30 to 40 miles an hour, you're a danger to the community. Please let your guests and people know we do have a speed limit here. We have kids in the street, we have people visiting, it's a summertime. It's just that important to just take care of your family and everybody else and make sure that you're driving at the right speed. Other than that, I don't have anything else. I'll take questions if you have any questions. I guess at the end of the meeting, is that what it is? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve. By the way, stop sign enforcement costs us money. It's not a moneymaker. It costs us money. As I said before, the safety of our people, our residents, is utmost importance to us. I want to introduce Bill Mullins. Bill Mullins is our treasurer, and he's also the head of Budget and Finance Committee. We're very fortunate to have an extremely talented and experienced Budget and Finance Committee. They perform services for our community that I don't think any other community like ours has. So I want to introduce Bill, who is going to present the Treasury report as he does at each board meeting, and then he's going to present our capital plan. Thank you.
The good news, as you see, everybody's leaving because it's 7:33 and the meeting is over. So, no, they're leaving because the presentation on the screen, they're going to have the light shining in their eyes. We don't want to blind them, since they work in the dark anyway. Okay, before I start, I want to thank Maria. She's put up with me for the last 2 weeks working on this presentation. I started with 33 pages, and I had to figure out how to get it down to 10. So I went through about 10 different revisions, because there's actually a lot of information we wanted to share with you, but, also trying to simplify it is also a task. So I tried to put this into the simplest terms possible. So Maria, the good news is you don't have to see me tomorrow. Okay, this is the financial update. I'm covering a lot of different topics. Maria, we're going to have to order breakfast soon for everybody.
Sorry. It's a hot minute. Sorry. Okay.
Do you want me to move over?
That's fine. No, you're perfect.
Okay. Okay. Some of these slides are repeats from prior years, but we have a lot of new people that have moved into the community, so I figured I'd give you a background. So we have a financial team that works together on the Greens expenses and all the other things that go into it. We have 12 members with over 600 years of financial and business experience on the team. All different backgrounds. In fact, we're actually even lucky enough to have 2 CPAs who specialize in condo and co-op financials. So we get the benefit of all of the communities that they do business for, and we get to get the best practices and the intelligence from everything that's going on all across Long Island. Oh boy, this is really professional. The committee meets on a regular basis, and we proactively review our detailed expenses. We also prepare annual operating, capital budgets for review, approval by board, and distributed to the community. Einsiedler Management, we have 3 people who work with us, not strictly for the Greens, but they are assigned to us with other communities. And what they do is they provide transparency and oversight management by reviewing all invoices, provides payment processing, financial reporting, and arrears management. So it's a collective team that works on, the financials for the Greens, as Mark was talking about. Next page, Maria. Okay, a little history here. Long-term plan update, also known as the short-term plan. Now, because we're in the final stretch of the last 4 years, but we actually developed this plan in 2014. I had no gray hair in 2014, so the last 10 years has aged me a lot. Not only working on the finances, but just being involved in a lot of the stuff. And the purpose of the 15-year plan was to have a vision of where we wanted to be in the Greens. And it was to maintain, improve, and enhance the infrastructure in our community. The objective was to be proactive and financially planned for future upgrades, which is what I'm going to talk about. I have given 8 annual presentations in the last 10 years. We skipped 2 years because of COVID. I was up here by myself, but nobody attended. So, it would have been 10 out of 10, but nobody came. The current projections of the plan has a cumulative investment of $28 million and is based on annual funding of reserves versus the need to assess homeowners numerous times for ongoing major projects. Long-term plan is reviewed and updated annually by the Budget and Finance Committee. We spend a lot of time. We start on it in August to prepare for a presentation to the board in October. So there's 2 months of work that goes into it. We analyze every single line item. We figure out where we could save money, where we have to invest money, to keep the Greens running the way it's running today. And then it's approved by the board. One particular note is Einsiedler Management, which handles 75 communities on Long Island. There's not one of those communities that has a long-term plan, and every time they do a capital project, they assess the homeowners. There's no reserves. And Mark Getz, who handles another 100-plus communities, he will tell you they don't have a long-term plan. So we're unique in that aspect. Thank you. Next page, I wanted to give you a summary of our operating budget. Our last budget, or this year's budget, is $6.7 million. Just to give you the magnitude of what we cover, our community consists of 1,144 homes, 268 acres of land, and 7 miles of roads. There's nothing else like it on Long Island. or even probably in the Northeast. Our budget increase was 4.3%. And in that 4.3% is 1% included for increase in reserve funding, which we include every year to make sure that our reserve funding meets our upgrade plan. Einsiedler, again, in their 75 communities, had increases ranging from 4.5% to 16%. And all of those budgets did not include reserve funding. If you look at the line items, I'm giving you sort of a, let me just, hold on. Okay, there it goes. No, it doesn't work. No, you can't see it, Maria. It's okay, it's all right. Yeah, it's big enough. Our landscaping and snow, we've had the conversation with snow, but landscaping and snow is our two biggest line items. $2.17 million, and it equates to 33% of our budget. Staff compensation and management fees is the second, $743. Repairs and maintenance, $578,000 or 9%. Utilities, electric, water, and garbage, $541. Security expense is $439 or 7%. And then we have 35 miscellaneous smaller items that we manage for $424,000 and 6%. There's 35 items because those items we feel is important to actually manage different aspects of what we're spending money on. I mean, it's easy just to lump it together, but then we won't know what's in that number. So the subtotal of our operating budget is $4,895,000 or 73%. Our reserve funding is $1,768,000 or 27% of our budget. That equals 100%. The long-term plan, next page, Maria, oh, okay. Long-term plan update, program to date, 2014 to 2024, we have funded $12 million in infrastructure upgrades with no assessments. This one, yeah. No, I said next. That's okay. With no assessment. So just a quick rundown of the 14 projects completed. We did villa townhouse driveways, condo paver walkways, covered garbage areas, handicap mailboxes, LED street light conversion, new secured gate system. This is important. 7 years ago, I don't know how many people here 7 years ago, but we did not have a secure community. All we had was arms, the middle gate. Anybody could walk in, jump over the arms, whatever it was. The north gate wasn't secured. And at the time we planned the secured gate system, we also looked at our security expense. And based on that, we were able to save $250,000 a year in reduction in security expense. So over the last 7 years, we've saved $1.5 million in security expense, and our security is better now than it was 7 years ago, even with saving money. Annual landscaping replacements, we have budget for annual landscaping every year. I know there was a question, what are we doing with landscaping? We plan landscaping and we plan replacements. Annual drainage improvements. Unfortunately, the developer left us with a lot of drainage problems. So every year we spend money on drainage to fix those items, and we still, as they come up, we spend money to fix it. We replaced the perimeter fence on Old South Path. New bike sheds. We had these bike sheds on the side of the road. Through Steve Swirsky's help, we put two new bike sheds together, and we have it in a nice area now. And we just recently installed 4 new electric vehicle charging stations for the condo residents. We're in the process of replacing the light post lenses, and The HOA building, as Bob talked about, we're waiting approval from Suffolk County Health Department, and the off-site maintenance facility is up and operational now, and it's nice to drive past that shed area and not see equipment there. Okay, next page. There was a question on the HOA building expense. So, how many people read Newsday? Looks like everybody. Okay. So there was an article 3 months ago, I don't know who saw it, that talked about the challenges of developers and construction of new developments on Long Island. It takes a developer, and that's why you don't see a lot of new construction, and we are part of this challenge or issue, is from the time a developer wants to start a project, from drawings to engineering to permits, until they actually get something open, takes 7 years. 7 years. And what happens with that is it drives up the cost because it takes so long and you got to jump through hoops because of the bureaucracy in the local towns, the municipalities, and that's why nothing gets done. So we're confronted with the same thing. So I broke this down into chunks of expenses. The top is what I'll call pre-construction expenses. Architectural, engineering, permits and fees is a large number. Legal, we had to spend a lot of money legal, jumping through some hoops with some municipalities and towns. We talked about the PC&G wire that we had under the building that we found that caused us a delay and cost us $130,000 to relocate that line, because that line not only serviced the greens, it serviced people outside the greens. And then we have all this other miscellaneous. So even before we were able to put a shovel in the ground to start, $528,000. Bob talked about the building construction. The contract we signed was $1,060,000. Originally, 3 years before, it was $850,000. We've had some change orders and some small price increases of $45,000, and we're going to get $25,000 in credits. The total was $1,080,000. Furniture, equipment, service, security, and miscellaneous is $146,000, so our current projection is $1,754,000. The question asked, what was our original projection or budget? It was originally $1,003,000. Unfortunately, because of the delays and this taking us 7 years, it cost us an incremental $400,000 on things that I just talked about. The next page, or the next question we got over the years is, why would you spend $1,700,000 on a building? Okay, that's the next question. I talked about this last year. So, the space that we're in Einsiedler is like 800 square feet, and the working conditions of staff there, residents who come in, comments we get from new buyers come in and say, this is the office for the Greens. It's a disgrace. We have $1 billion plus in homeowners' value, $1 billion plus, and we're on 110, and our residents have to drive barcodes, whatever it is. So I did some projections. If we lease 3,500 square feet, which is the size of the building, the 15-year cumulative lease cost in the area would come to $2.3 million, and in year 2038, which is 15 years from now, we would be paying $155,000 a year in lease expense. So I'm not going to be sitting on the board in 15 years from now. However, I could tell you, if whoever that board was and we didn't build this building now, they would say to themselves, holy shit, one of our line items is $150,000 in lease expense. Why the hell won't we build a building? And then 15 years from now, it'll cost $8 million, and we'll have to get a mortgage and all that other stuff. So another scenario, I said, all right, so we don't do 3,500, we do 2,500 square feet, 1,000 less. We don't have meeting space. The lease cost still comes to $1.6 million. So the building pays for itself. The build versus lease is the best long financial decision for the community. There's significant benefits for the community and residents for having an on-site facility. And these lease rates are based on a 3% annual inflation rate. Okay? Hope that answers the questions on the building. Next page, reserves overview. So as of April 30th, we had $3,927,000 in reserves. The new buyer's fee, it was a bylaw change that we passed in 2021 to help fund future reserves. In the last 2 years and 3 months, we've collected $500,000 in the new buyer's fee, which is great. So our total reserves as of the end of April is $4,427,000. The next chart, which I know there's a lot of numbers, and I tried to simplify this, this breaks down our reserve funding from 2024 to 2029, which gets us through most of the projects. So at the end of 2024, the reserve funding, which you saw in the budget, $1,768,000. Our capital reserve fee, which we increased to 1% in February, will get us $400,000 this year. Interest, we're going to earn over $200,000, probably $250,000 this year in interest. So we're going to take in $2,368,000 in reserve funding. Next year, $2,312,000. 26, $2,321,000. You see, it drops a little because I forecasted interest down. There's rate hikes. We're going to be using money, so there's going to be less interest. 2027, $232,000. 2029, we're going to almost be $2.5 million. So from now till 2029, we're going to collect $12 million. We have $4.12 million as of the end of January, which was the financials. So we'll have $16.1 million, to give you an idea. Okay, the next page. This sort of breaks out our projects. Roofing, painting, roads, and then we have landscaping and drainage. So next year, we have roofing. The roofing currently and painting is planned to sort of go simultaneously. We're going to look at it, once we talk to the engineer, but the plan is to start roofing and then follow with painting in sections, so we can, keep it going. Right now, we're looking to do it over 3 years because it's a lot of work. And then proceeding with the roads in 2028, because you don't want to do the roads before the roofing and painting because there's going to be a lot of damage. But currently, we have $9.1 million for roofing, $3.8 million in painting, and $2.6 million in roads, and we have landscaping, drainage, $700,000. That gets us to $16.5 million, okay, of spend. However, and again, I'm being very transparent here, the ending reserves, you see we're good up to 2027, and we have a deficit of $1.1 million. And in 2028, we have a deficit of $1.5 million. And then in 2029, we have a positive $700,000. Okay? The annual deficits are probably underestimated for several reasons. First of all, we can't operate with no reserves, so we're going to maintain at least $500,000 in reserves for any emergencies or anything that comes up. We may have higher bid projections. Don't know. Although last year we increased the original quotes we got 3 years ago, we increased these by 30%. So whatever we had in the plan, we just added 30% on the numbers as a placeholder. And in unanticipated projects and/or programming timing changes, we may see if we can accelerate. We'll figure out once we get and we see how everything goes. We'll see how, it goes. So we have a plan. There is a shortfall. So next page talks about the current plan to fund the projected deficit. One of the actions we took was the capital improvement plan. The bylaw change in 2021, we were at 0.5%. Just past February, the board approved the new buyer's fee to 1% for new potential buyers. And the cumulative fee of that change, which is significant, from 2022 to 2029, we're going to collect $2.8 million. That's in the reserve projections I showed you. There was a concern when we did pass the capital improvement fee in 2021, and including when we just raised it to 1%, is the realtors were concerned they were going to lose business. I assured the realtors 3 years ago that they would not lose one sale, and the same realtors called me in January, because I know most of the realtors in here, and says, "What are you doing? I'm going to lose sales. I'm going to have to reduce my commission." They have not lost one sale, and they have not had to reduce their commission. The reason is the fee, we have extremely low taxes. You can't find any place in Long Island with our tax base, and for the amenities that we have and the size of the units we have, our common charge fees are the lowest anywhere. So whatever that new buyer fee is, it pays for itself in the first year of people moving here, and then their overhead is low. So it's not an impact, and it's helping us. So in order to fund the deficit, again, I showed you the small deficit, but I think it's going to be bigger. Our bank is Bank United, and we've discussed with them on obtaining a $5 million credit line for 5 years, but I think we could pay it off sooner, to reduce the need for resident assessments. We really feel, given the diversity of the residents in the community, it's best to have a consistency on how we pay for projects and on our reserves. I have friends who live in communities who are continually assessed, and they are not happy campers. As Mark Getch told you, when people come in and they look at the financials of a community, they lose sales because their financials are not good, or they keep getting assessed. They're surprises. I have a friend in the community who has had 6 assessments in the last 7 years. And there's like 15% of the units are up for sale and they can't sell them. So, we've taken a different approach. The good news is we started 10 years ago to get us where we are today and into the future. So the current board, I stress the current, and the Budget and Finance Committee is committed to funding any potential gaps with a line of credit. However, since I am transparent, there is no guarantee that a potential assessment may be needed due to unforeseen circumstances. I don't know what they are, but at this point, we are planning for no assessments. We feel the $5 million credit line can cover us for the 2 or 3 years, given our cash flow is $2.5 million a year. So if you think about that, over 3 years, we're going to have $7.5 million, so we can easily fund the $5 million to pay it back. The next page, I just wanted to give you an idea of an assessment approach if we did not have a 10-year plan. Assessments is reactive and a lack of financial planning. The following are projections for such approach. So I told you we spent $12 million currently on the projects we've completed, right? I showed you the 14 projects on the page. If we didn't have reserves like other communities, a condo would have got assessed $6,000 and a villa $17,000. Okay? Future, the middle column, the $16 million that were projected for roofs, painting, and roads, an assessment for that would be $8,000 for a condo and $23,000 for a villa. If you take the whole long-term plan of $28 million of what we talked about, the assessments would be $14,000 for a condo and $41,000 for a villa. I also looked at all of our projects and sort of grouped them, and I said, so if we didn't have reserves, how would we do this? So we would have 8 individual assessments over the period of time to fund this. So, and as I said, we have a diverse group of residents in here, so assessment approach would create financial hardship for residents on fixed income, impact new potential buyers, and impact our resale values. So as Mark Yates told you, we are in good shape for all of those reasons. Our resale values, people can know what the budget and all this stuff. So just don't misinterpret this slide. I don't want people leaving here saying, whoa, you should see the assessments we're getting. This is not assessments. This is what would have been if we didn't do the right financial planning. Okay, in summary, we're at the end here. Our collective team of 70-plus people, we have a small village helping in this community. It's not done by one people, the 7 board members. We have HOA board, we have condo boards, we have committee, we have HOA staff, we have Einsiedler management, we have volunteers, we have all of the 1,144 residents that we listen to. All of the people we have out there, we listen to all of the feedback that people tell us on what we need to do, what improvements, how do we better manage. It's a collective effort. So all of that, we have made great progress on improving our community to date. We will continue to stringently manage our expenses, our budget process, our contracts, to maintain low annual fee increases and fund our capital projects without potential assessments. We will continue to improve our community quality of life for residents, which is most important, and resale values. And in closing, the Greens is the best place to live. Thank you. Okay, I know you're all tired, but does anybody have any questions they'd like to ask? Oh, he's taking his jacket off. I'm in trouble here.
Mr. Mullins.
Yes.
I actually applaud and respect what you do. However, when you use renting, leasing property on 110 as a comparison to spending $1.7 million on that building.
Yes.
But of course you win with rental. In a few years, I'm going to be buried in the ground.
Yes.
And I don't want to be buried in a rental tuxedo. So rental always comes in second to ownership.
Correct.
However, if I were looking for a house and a real estate agent took me over to see the HOA building, and remember, you didn't pay for the land, and said, this building, you can have it for 1.7 with no profit, I would say, you must think I'm a horse's ass.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Wow, I got off easy on this, no questions. Either that or you're too tired and I wore you out. Okay.
I also want to commend you on the job well done. I just have a question. I don't know if this is for the accountant for you. When you take a quick look at the financials, revenues are up about 500,000. Yet our bottom line was down over 100,000, coupled with the fact that we had $100,000 of interest income. How do you see this impacting the future 5 years?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
What I'm saying is that when you take just a quick review of the financials,
right,
you'll see that our revenues are up about $500,000 from 2023.
Our revenues are down?
Up,
okay.
Our revenues are up,
okay.
Yet our bottom line is down. Our bottom line,
it probably has to do with expenses, I would say, the bottom line. We used reserve money for the building and the off-site facility that probably, the expenses drove the bottom line down, I would say.
But do you see this impacting the assessments?
No. I tried to simplify those slides. You know, we're going to collect 16.5 million over the next 6 years, and our project's coming in at 16.5. We're going to have a deficit, but we have a plan to cover the deficit. So I do not see an issue at this point. Do I have a crystal ball? No, but I think we'll be okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, I listened to Bob before, and he said how beautiful this community is, and he is 100% correct. I see all the people on the board working so hard and doing a great job to keeping the greens the way it is. My only complaint, and it has nothing to do with the board, is the fact of the person who is in charge of the clubhouse, the Satan. The clubhouse is a disgrace in comparison to the rest of the community. He hasn't done anything to that building in 21 years. And that's a disgrace. And thank you, everybody else, for what you do.
Thank you.
And clubhouse is a disgrace, period.
I agree. I think what will happen, and I could be wrong, but I think when we start doing the roofs and the painting and all the improvements in the community, the clubhouse is going to stick out like a sore thumb on how bad it looks, and he's going to be under pressure to match what we're doing. I'm hoping, but we will see, right? We'll see. All right, I guess we can close, and I thank all of you for coming and appreciate your attention. Thank you, sweetie.
You're welcome. I just wanted to let you know that one of the questions was, are you going to do old roofs on top of new roofs?
No.
Owners didn't want to ask.
What? Are we going to do what?
They wanted to know if we were going to be adding old roofs on
Who
top
asked
of
that question? Are they still here?
one of the homeowners. Just
somebody asked if we were going to put new roofs over old roofs. The question didn't come up. We're taking the old roofs off and putting new roofs. We want to make sure the plywood is not damaged underneath. It's a cheaper way of doing it, but we're not doing it the cheaper way.